All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show with a little 49er video. All right, the 49ers look like they're on the verge of adding another quarterback, potentially a camp arm, to their quarterback room. The Niners have canceled their final round of OTAs and then moved up their mandatory mini camp to this week. And we're going to be down in Santa Clara later this week to take a look at what the mandatory minicamp looks like, and we'll bring you all the sights and sounds of that. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. But according to our friend Kyle Posey from Niners Nation, the Niners are looking to add an extra quarterback. And according to Aaron Wilson of Pro Football Network, the 49ers are working at Jack Coan, who played at Notre Dame, played at Wisconsin, and also played recently in the XFL for San Antonio. He finished 7th in the league in the XFL in passing yards. He threw 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions for 254 yards on 5.8 yards per attempt. Coan is 24, came out in the 2022 draft, didn't get drafted, went undrafted, signed with the Indianapolis Colts. He's got good size. He's got, 6'3", 220 pounds roughly. He's never thrown a pass in the NFL. Former Notre Dame player, former Wisconsin player. And is he a camp arm to just take some of the workload off of Trey Lance and off of Sam Darnold and off of Brandon Allen? Or is it some kind of a statement that the 49ers are not satisfied with Brandon Allen? Or does it mean that the 49ers are getting ready to move off of one of their quarterbacks, establishing a surplus? Coan's an interesting prospect. He signed with Wisconsin. He's a kid from New York, right? He's from Sayville, New York. 31 and a half or 31 and an eighth inch arm, 6'3", 218 pounds coming out, 9.5-inch hands, pretty big hands. Decent player at Notre Dame. He started at Wisconsin. He signed with Wisconsin out of high school. And in high school, he was the reigning New York Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior at Sayville High School. He set Long Island's career passing record with 9,787 passing yards and 128 touchdowns. Once upon a time, Jack Coan was a highly sought-after player. He played limited snaps in 6 games as a freshman in Madison, and then he got a shot to start 4 of 5 games for Alex Hornibrook, who went down with an injury and eventually transferred to Florida State after the injury. But, Coan's an interesting guy. He was a full-time starter in 2019. He ranked 7th in the FBS in completion percentage. In college, he completed almost 70% of his passes, 69.6% of his passes for 2,700-plus yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. 4-star quarterback recruit. And then Graham Mertz took over as the starting quarterback at Wisconsin in 2020 after Jack Coan suffered a broken right foot in the preseason. And then he wound up redshirting. And then he transfers to Notre Dame, I should say, in 2021 and threw for over 3,100 yards, completed 66% of his passes, 25 touchdowns, 7 picks in 13 starts. So interesting. He's a pro-style quarterback. He's got size. He's got a decent arm. He's a pocket passer. And, there's no question he was in college, at least. He was a very accurate player. His yards per attempt and touchdown to interception ratio were all going in the right direction. He had a monster game against Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. And then, he's a guy that doesn't have that next level movement ability. He's a pocket passer, but he can climb the pocket. He can slide around the pocket and find a clean space to, a clean launch point. He makes full field reads. He gets the ball where it needs to be. Pretty smart kid. His deep ball touch was just okay. The ball placement outside the numbers just okay. He can work in a number of different schemes. He's probably tops out as a backup quarterback. There's no question. He definitely has the build of an NFL quarterback. And if you look at what he did his final couple of years in college, I mean, there was plenty of production there. He had 43 touchdowns and 12 picks over his last 2 years in college. and he plays with poise, and he definitely has command. I've heard him interviewed. He's a smart kid. He's a leader. He's got mobility within the pocket, and he's definitely more of a pocket guy than any kind of a special athlete, but he can make full field reads. He's got enough of an arm to make the throws. He definitely is not afraid to throw the ball into tight windows. He definitely improved throughout his college career. And, if you look at him though, he definitely doesn't have he's not your RPO guy. And if you look at his footwork in the quick game, I don't think it's very good. I think he needs work on that. When it comes to throwing the ball outside the numbers, he sprays it a little bit. The accuracy is not quite there. So, and there's some refinement that needs to happen. I don't think he ever really showed that he could make that back shoulder throw. The touch on the deep ball was just kind of hit and miss. So, I mean, he's not a star quarterback by any stretch. I mean, he's never really understood how to manipulate the safeties, with his eyes, and he's not much of a runner, not much of a scrambler. You know, it's funny. Wisconsin's passing game was just so rudimentary that he was definitely better at Notre Dame than he was at Wisconsin. But he's a backup quarterback. That's what he is. He's a backup NFL quarterback coming off of an XFL experience. But the question is he here as a camp arm, or is he here because they're dissatisfied with Brandon Allen? Now, I would say based on what I've seen, they are not dissatisfied with Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen, to me, has looked really, really good. In a lot of ways, he's very similar to Brock Purdy, 6'1", 220 pounds. This guy was very experienced college player. Now we're talking about Brandon Allen, 3-year starter for the Razorbacks. He was the one-time Arkansas High School Player of the Year. This is a pretty accomplished college quarterback at Arkansas, and a guy that definitely is a leader. He's a playmaker. He's if you look at Brandon Allen's game, there's a lot to me he reminds me a lot of Brock Purdy. I mean, he's really good on the bootlegs. He's really good on the rollouts. This guy does have good movement ability. And then we also saw him improve quite a bit his final year in college, where his completion percentage jumped from 56% in 2014 to 66% the following year. And he's a real good intermediate thrower. I mean, completed 65% of his throws on the intermediate level. He's got good ball placement on crossing routes. He's got kind of like Brock. He's got a little bit of a sneaky arm, as far as there's a little bit more arm there than you would think. He also, he's a pretty good ball handler with pump fakes and resets. He throws with accuracy, gets the ball out in rhythm on the rollout. He looks really comfortable when you're moving the pocket. He looks really comfortable on all the bootleg game. And he can make all the NFL throws. He absolutely can. He was Joe Burrow's backup this last year. That obviously is going to help because Burrow is such a cerebral young quarterback and such a model of consistency. And some of that has got to have rubbed off on Brandon Allen. And unlike, Coan, Allen has the ability to make plays outside the pocket and to buy himself extra time. So, and then, his final year in college, he started taking more shots down the field, and he completed 48 throws his final year at Arkansas, of throws that went 20 plus yards down the field. Now, kind of like Brock, he doesn't have the biggest frame, so there's always durability issues and durability questions. He doesn't have as much experience in the play action game, at least coming out of college, as Kyle Shanahan loves the play action game, so probably could use more reps there. But I really think Brandon Allen has already made a couple of plays in practice that were just flat dimes. So I got to think Jack Coan is here not because the 49ers are not liking Brandon Allen. He might be here because they do like Brandon Allen. And you may see Brandon Allen, elevated to the third quarterback. And you may see Coan be the practice squad guy this year. So It definitely is interesting. Why did the Niners sign Jack Coan? Did they sign him to establish a surplus so they could trade one of their quarterbacks? Is he just a camp arm to give these guys a little bit of a reprieve? Is it a guy that their college scouting director just liked and said, hey, we liked him at Notre Dame. Let's take a look at him here. Any number of reasons could be the reason that Jack Coan's here. But the idea that he's here as a camp arm, to me, he's a little bit more accomplished than your typical camp arm. So I would say he'd be a little too good for the camp arm status, but I also don't think he's good enough to beat out Brandon Allen. So I don't believe that, Jack Coan's, a Niner, or at least they're bringing him in for a workout because they're dissatisfied with Brandon Allen in the slightest. I think it just could be to establish a surplus so that they can make a move at some point if they want to. So very interesting, the addition of Jack Coan, and we'll see him this summer in camp. There's a lot of positive attributes to like about Coan, but at the end of the day, I think he tops out as a number 2 quarterback, probably more like a number 3. All right. Hope you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.